Coming up, Joplin among the 4 states to take to the polls for elections. We've got all your results, and it was also time to vote in Crawford County. Also, a young man in Oklahoma falls to his death in a tragic silo accident.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good Wednesday morning and welcome to the Koam Morning News, where it's 5 o'clock. I'm Michael Hayslip. Before we get to your election results in our 4-state news, let's jump to the Skywatch storm tracker because we do still have some lingering rain holding on to the far west and far south of our highlighted counties. Haven't picked up anything severe. Any accumulation numbers that we picked up from yesterday into this morning still only sitting about 1/4 of an inch. Starting to cool off there, especially up to the north where we've got the high 30s in Iola, Fort Scott, and Nevada. Still 41 right now in Joplin, 42 in Independence and Miami, and Monette at a chilly 37 as the wind shifting once again on us, trying to work back from the east to the northeast, an indicator that that's how those clouds are going to begin to dissipate as well. Now it's overcast for the time being, but eventually today we get a little sunshine. Give you an idea from the national perspective. That cluster of rain stretching from Texas all the way up to us, kind of the biggest thing going in the U.S. right now. But nothing shows up on the severe thunderstorm risk map, and that's a good sign. Weather trend for our Wednesday. We'll go low 50s and finally get a peek of the glow cloud by the time we get to the afternoon. Here's what Future Track has. Done with the rain by, say, 9, 10 o'clock. And then look at the north begins to clear off. And eventually, those clouds, they just kind of break up in time that we'll all get a little peek of some sun. But then after that, overnight lows going to dip down to the point where, here in a little bit, we'll talk about what frost advisories and freeze warnings we're already seeing in anticipation of cold overnight temperatures for the next 2 nights. National Weather Service reporting a record-breaking number of tornadoes in Oklahoma last month. NWS confirming 31 tornadoes, and that is 4 more than the 27 recorded in October of 1998. No deaths reported. On average, October is the 5th most active tornado month in the state, averaging 2.2 twisters since 1950. Strongest tornado last month, an EF2, that was near Anadarko on October the 10th, when strong storms also spawned severe weather in parts of Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, and Texas. A maintenance worker is dead after falling into an asphalt silo yesterday in Oklahoma City. Investigators say it was a young man who regularly worked to clean out the structure at T.J. Campbell Construction. Fell about 25 feet into the silo, where temperatures can reach up to 320 degrees. Fire department drained the silo to retrieve the young man's body, the company saying the man's father also worked at the plant. If you're thinking of going down Main Street from 4th Street to 7th Street between the hours of 7 a.m. to noon on Thursday, let's find a different route. That's because those blocks are going to be closed to through traffic so the workers can access City Hall's roof and flagpoles in order to untangle the flag and restring the Missouri state flag. City recommends using streets either east or west of Main Street during this brief closure, and please remain cautious during those detours. 4 state ballots yesterday. You had questions impacting your taxes, city governments, school boards. We've got your numbers. We start our election coverage with the Joplin Use Tax Proposal, as voters were asked whether their online purchases should be subject to the same local sales tax from local retailers. And voters did support that idea, albeit just barely, with 51.5% of the yeses taking the vote. Voters in Lamar, Missouri, a similar decision to make. The use tax proposal, it passed with nearly 64% of the vote. Parsons, Kansas, a handful of communities considering sales tax hikes. It's a half-cent proposal that would fund economic development, streets, and parks improvement. This one overwhelmingly wins with almost 72% of the vote. Frontenac with a 1/4-cent sales tax proposal on the ballot. This is for streets, alleys, sidewalks, and storm damage. And that's called overwhelming. 129 to 2. Frontenac sales tax easily passes. Town of Cherokee, Kansas, considering a 1.5% sales tax for general government purposes. And like the previous sales tax issues we had, this one passes as well. 73% of voters saying yes. Let's go to Oronogo, Missouri. Voters supporting the proposal for the city to sell its natural gas utility to Spire Missouri Incorporated. In fact, passing with 63% of the vote. In many communities around the area, voters also decided city government and school board races. And you can find those results all on our website. Go to KOAMNewsNow.com. Also, too, throughout the course of the show, we're going to be popping up this QR code. I understand if you don't have your phone on you right now, but during a commercial break when you grab your coffee, if you want to grab your phone, all you have to do is snap a picture of that app, and we will deliver you straight to KOAM News Now, and you can catch up on all your election results. 7-day forecast has temperatures that are going to be chilly this morning, as we've already seen anything as low as 37 and only as high as 42. Still got a little bit of lingering rain holding on. Hasn't been impressive in nature. And then eventually, when we talk about Wednesday and Thursday into Friday, well, that's when we're going to be busting out some freeze and frost advisories. Here's a look at the Skywatch storm tracker and where we stand right now. I guess it's not too early in the morning. We can go ahead and jump into this, and I'll show you exactly what we've got cooking here overnight for the next 2 nights. Now, granted, these are not in effect right now. This is kind of a preemptive strike that I'm throwing up there, but I still want to talk about them. Let's start with the light purple over in southeast Kansas. That is indicating a freeze advisory. Now, that runs all the way to Thursday morning. So it's going to start Thursday morning, that freeze advisory. You can tell this thing stretches all the way to the panhandles. Then as we dip into the darker purple for southwest Missouri, that is a freeze watch. And remember, in order of operations from least severe to severe, you go advisory, watch, warning. So southwest Missouri in a freeze watch until Thursday at 9 a.m. And then that turquoise, that's the freeze warning. That doesn't mean it's probably going to happen. That means it is going to happen. And that runs similar to what it did yesterday. It kind of starts in Springfield, just east of our counties, and tracks to the other side of the Mississippi. That is a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, the Chiefs have a new defensive player and land him right as the trade deadline closes. And how should women in the workplace be treated in comparison to male counterparts? Also, Pfizer getting ready to send out doses specifically made for children to help curb COVID. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We've got more real news in the morning. Be right back. Kansas City Chiefs added to their defense yesterday, doing so just ahead of the NFL trade deadline as the Chiefs acquired linebacker Melvin Ingram from the Pittsburgh Steelers. In exchange, KC sending Pittsburgh a 6th-round pick. Ingram was a first-rounder drafted by the Chargers back in 2012, and after 9 seasons in San Diego, signed a 1-year deal with the Steelers last offseason. Ingram, a 3-time Pro Bowler, 50 sacks, 13 forced fumbles in a decade playing in the NFL. Speaking of the Chiefs, now that back to 500, beating the Giants Monday night 20-17. So now they stand at 4-4, and again, it was an artistic night on offense. Patrick Mahomes threw for 275 yards and a touchdown. Also threw an interception for the 7th consecutive game. May not feel right to Chiefs fans right now. Patrick Mahomes says, don't worry, we're going to get there.
We have guys open, and if we're on the same page with me and the receivers with the routes, and then I throw it and hit the right spot, we can move the ball on pretty much any coverage. We have answers for versus everything. But that we've had, you've seen in every game pretty much that there's been times where we kind of stall out and we don't execute, or I throw the ball and I don't hit the right spot, or the receiver doesn't see it the same way that I do, or penalties or turnovers. So, I mean, I know in this league it's kind of showing that it's kind of happened week after week these last few weeks, but I think we're going to snap out of it and we'll find a way to start executing, and then when we do, we'll be a tough offense to stop.
Some junior college football news as the Kansas Jayhawk Conference announces Butler Community College must forfeit all of its wins this season, saying they had an ineligible player. Now, Butler was supposed to be the number 3 seed in the Jayhawk Conference playoffs this weekend, had a 5-2 record. Now, technically, Butler is 0-8. Number 1 Coffeyville hosting number 8, now Butler, on Sunday in the first round of the Kansas Jayhawk playoffs. Coffeyville is the number 1 seed, also your regular season conference champion. And so here's what the whole thing with Butler does, because it throws everybody's schedule into a wrench. Coffeyville was supposed to host Fort Scott in the first round of the playoffs. But now that Butler's the 8th seed, Coffeyville gets to host Butler instead of 1-7 Fort Scott. Game's going to be in Coffeyville on Sunday afternoon. We make that decision there at the last moment. Missouri Southern women's basketball team just 1 day away from their exhibition game of the season, the first one that is. Lions hit the road on Wichita Thursday night. Going to take on WSU. It'll be their only preseason exhibition of the year. Southern picked to finish 9th in the MIAA preseason coaches poll and coming off a 9-14 record last year. Lions have 6 newcomers on the team. That includes 5 freshmen. Also bring back 8 players from last year, including a couple that head coach Ronnie Russell expects big things from this season.
Lane Skiles, offensively, has done a nice job for us. She's worked her butt off all summer and preseason. She's shooting the ball with a lot of confidence. And Amaya Johns, I think Amaya's going to have a breakout year. She knows how to score the basketball in a variety of ways, whether it's shooting a 3, pull-ups, or getting to the basket, or even in a post-up situation. I think she's going to be a big asset for us, especially offensively.
Joplin High School boys soccer team faced Kickapoo Monday night. It was the Class 4 District 5 semifinals. Joplin falls to Kickapoo 4-1. Chiefs now advance to the district championship. Great season by Joplin though. Eagles wrap up with a 16-7 overall record. Also of note last night, Atlanta Braves will not let the World Series get to 7 games as they defeat the Houston Astros 7-0. Oh, by the way, your World Series MVP, Royal fans, Jorge Soler. Soler hit 3 home runs for the Braves in their postseason run, including one last night in the first inning. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, suicide rates dropping nationwide. However, we'll find out why they went up for some demographics and a check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. Rolling up on 517, great time to begin with a little weather on the 7s, and we will start with a live look over 7th and Range Line. Still got a little bit of chill out there, that is for sure. Current conditions sitting at 41 degrees, a little bit of a wind chill in effect. Not as drastic as what it was yesterday when we had a 5 to 6 degree difference. Today, only about 3 degrees. And still some lingering rain out to the west and to the east, and to the south. Able to keep all the heavy stuff way down there by the Red River. And here, a couple hours, we'll be done with our rain. Our accumulation numbers very, very minimal coming off of last night into this morning. And temperatures anywhere from our low point of 37 in Monette to a couple 43s that we're throwing out there in Parsons, Oswego, and Chanute running that line. 41 down in Neosho and in Anderson. Hit that wind just kind of jockeying back and forth between the east and the northeast, but at least it's just 5 to 10 miles per hour. We're going to be talking about chilly weather here, not only for this morning, but next couple of days. And really, like I said, it's only 2 to 3 degree difference as far as what it feels like right now. So we know it's going to get much worse in the coming month. Kind of reset the Skywatch storm tracker, talk a little bit about the cloud cover because it is an overcast morning. It'll be a little bit before the clouds begin to break up. And nationally speaking, that cluster of rain that we're in the midst of, that is kind of the biggest thing going right now. The larger part of the cold front does ride the jet stream and stay just to our north right there. Kind of sweeps in through central Missouri, cuts down to the boot heel, and then rides to the mid-Atlantic. But eventually, as this rain moves out, our skies clear, and that gives us a chance to, number one, see some sunshine, and gives Mother Nature a chance to throw some cold air overnight our way. Here's our weather trend for our Wednesday. Highs in the low 50s. Let's talk about what happens when we drop down overnight. Number 1, there goes the rain. Number 2, there go the clouds. Number 3, here comes the frost. So look at these temperatures as by the time we get into early Thursday morning. And so what we're going to do here is on the left-hand side, and that lighter purple, lavender if you will, a frost advisory. Okay, that's a frost advisory. Then throughout southwest Missouri and central southeast Kansas, right along the state line, freeze watch. And then the turquoise for Springfield, all the way over, freeze warning. So it's an indicator that as you progress from west to east, it gets closer and closer to being freezing, and it actually stretches from the panhandles to the east coast. It's not like Mother Nature picking on us. That cold shut of air, that's going to roll through pretty impressive in nature. 7-day forecast. Daily highs are going to be great, 52 and 56 there on Thursday and Friday. And then really by the time we get into Friday night, we'll be able to drop all our freeze advisories, watches, warnings, because Overnight lows only stick in the 40s, so that'll be delightful. Looking at a good weekend, too. Look at that, 63 on Saturday, 68 on Sunday. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. A study finds women in corporate America made strides at nearly every level of U.S. companies last year, but the pandemic continued to cause increasing burnout. And even after a year of focus on racial diversity and inclusion, women of color still face more challenges, yet find less support. Elise Preston takes a look at women in the workplace.
Chicago media entrepreneur Olivia Mancuso is her own boss.
I get to decide what my labor is worth, and that is huge to me.
Mancuso left a mid-level management job this past March after feeling overworked, undercompensated, and stressed out. It even took a toll on her body.
I was losing clumps and clumps of hair. I just could not believe what I was seeing.
This year's Women in the Workplace report from McKinsey and Lean In found women are increasingly burned out, and more so than men. 1/3 said they considered leaving or downshifting their careers.
I think we should look at that as a bellwether for how women are feeling and the toll it's taking on them.
Report authors Alexis Krivkovich and Rachel Thomas say women have stepped up during the pandemic, particularly in leadership roles, but only a quarter of companies are recognizing the extra effort.
The big risk for companies in this moment is that they unwind the progress they've gained on women in leadership and lose these extraordinary leaders when they need them most.
This study also found women of color are losing ground at every step in the corporate pipeline, and they continue to have a worse experience at work.
I've worked at places where I was the only Black woman.
Nikki Ivy consults tech startups. Ivy says she was passed over for a promotion at her previous job and endured frequent microaggressions.
I was repeatedly told that my demeanor was intimidating to people. I was speaking to them just the way I'm speaking to you right now.
And while a large majority of white employees now view themselves as allies of women of color, there's little follow through.
That gap between intent and action is something that companies really need to address.
Action that could improve the workplace for everyone. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
The study's authors say pandemic work-from-home flexibilities does show that companies are capable of pivoting quickly. Today's question, either connect to us via our KOAM News Now Facebook page or our morning Insta poll by going to koamnewsnow.com/vote, deals with workplace equality. Let us know what you think, and we'll pass on results as we progress through our show. Come back, do a little Health Watch next. Topping Health Watch this morning, overall suicide rates decreased in the United States last year, but they did go up for some demographic groups. According to data published by a CDC agency, suicides decreased by 3% from 2019 to 2020, and that's despite risk factors for suicide generally increasing during a pandemic. Suicides among men went down 2%. For women, it declined 8%. The largest drop, 10%, was seen among non-Hispanic white women. However, suicide rates increased for non-Hispanic Black, non-Hispanic American Indian, and Alaska Native and Hispanic men. The overall decline follows a 2% decline from 2018 to 2019, but the report's lead author says there's still a need to remain vigilant about suicide prevention. 2020 saw just under 46,000 suicides. She says historically, that number is still quite high. She also said it's lower than in 2017, 18, and 19, but at the same point in time, still higher than any number before those years. Pfizer's gearing up to distribute 11 million doses of the pediatric COVID-19 vaccine. CDC director endorsing the recommendation for children ages 5 through 11 to get the vaccine after it was approved for emergency authorization by the FDA. Pfizer is saying within the first 10 days it expects to make 19,000 shipments to all 50 states and 6 large metro areas. Its clinical trial showing the vaccine provides 90.7% protection against symptomatic diseases in this age group. This youngest age group yet to receive 1/3 of the dose of what people 12 years and older get. Company hopes the smaller dose reduces any potential side effects. FDA says the benefits of the vaccine outweigh the risk to children, with nearly 28 million children now encouraged by the CDC to get vaccinated. Oklahoma State Department of Health has a new way for state residents to keep track of COVID-19 in their communities. Our own Bronte Sorotsky spoke with an epidemiologist about the state's new COVID-19 tracking portal and how it says it could help Oklahomans make better health decisions for themselves.
The Oklahoma State Health Department is launching a new way for Oklahomans to keep themselves safe.
The pandemic's not over. You know, we are still, as an agency, monitoring it very closely. But this was the right time to really say, hey, let's make those next steps and in transition and really allow the individuals to really make some of those choices for themselves.
Now, Oklahomans can take control of their health information with the start of their self-serve COVID-19 portal.
What it does is when you test positive for COVID through your hospital or through a lab, what'll happen is when that lab result gets reported, individuals will receive a text message stating that they have a lab result and that's positive.
The new system allows Oklahomans to easily send their COVID-19 status to anyone in their contacts and will allow them to print out a letter with when and how long they should isolate for.
It's the opportunity for individuals to be notified and to receive information about what next steps that it would be important for them to take.
Then, those contacts who may be infected can even report their symptoms, if any.
They can actually go in and say, you know, hey, I want to, you know, report if I develop symptoms, or how long do I need to quarantine?
The department says their biggest hope from this is to get Oklahomans a better understanding of the steps to take if they are infected to help slow down the current spread. I'm Bronte Sorotsky, KUAM News.
For more information about this new portal and how to access it, just go to our website, koamnewsnow.com. We'll be back right after this. Coming up, Joplin takes to the polls for an election Tuesday. We've got your results. Also, time to vote in Crawford County across the state line. We'll break it all down. And a young man in Oklahoma falls to his death in a tragic silo accident.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good Wednesday morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. We're not only going to get to those stories and all your election results, and remember, at any time, if there's another election result that you were thinking about doing, come back on cam, please. Any election result that you were thinking about hunting down, it's as simple as going to koamnewsnow.com. We've got complete election coverage up there on our website. Now we can transition to the Skywatch Storm Center and take a look at what we're going to have for our afternoon planner, because we're actually going to end up with a little bit of sunshine today. So that will be extremely nice to see coming off of a morning where temperatures right now are ranging anywhere from, say a chilly 39 up to the north, Iowa, Fort Scott, and Nevada. And 43 is about as good as we get right now through portions of Parsons down into Grove. Now, factor in the wind, which is not blustery by any means, but, you know, take 3 to 4 degrees off as far as what it actually feels like. And the Skywatch Storm Tracker, as the minutes tick by here, we're getting closer and closer to being done with this. And there's nothing building on the back of it. And so that's what's left of our rain. And then after the rain rolls through, then we can start to get rid of the clouds. Give you an idea of the Skywatch Storm Tracker from that national perspective. Check out the jet stream whipping in that cold Canadian air, and then it actually just kind of stops just short of us right there, kind of whips through just on the Kansas City side and then takes off for the boot heel. So we could be much, much colder than what they're getting in the upper plains right now. Our weather trend's actually not too bad. Yeah, it's still a good, 12, 13 degrees below normal, but it'll be nice not have to talk about rain. To actually see a little sunshine for the first time in a while. There we go. Clouds beginning to break there, slowly but surely coming our way. And then overnight, well, this is where it gets interesting, because with temperatures approaching that 32-degree mark, what that will mean is we're going to have frost advisories to the west, and then freeze watches for the central, and then freeze warnings for the eastern portion of the 4 states. Any which way you cut it, vegetation will be at risk for tonight into Thursday, and then also again for Thursday into Friday. National Weather Service reporting a record-breaking number of tornadoes in Oklahoma last month. The NWS confirming 31 tornadoes and that happens to be 4 more than the 27 that were recorded in October of 1998. Good news is that no deaths were reported with the 31 twisters. On average, October, the 5th most active tornado month in the Sooner State. Averages about 2.2 twisters since 1950. Now, the strongest tornado last month, that was an EF2, was located near Anadarko on October the 10th, and that also is when strong storms spawned severe weather in Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, and Texas. If you're thinking about going down Joplin's Main Street, and if you're specifically thinking about 4th Street to 7th Street, and if you're specifically thinking about Joplin Main Street, 4th Street to 7th Street between the hours of 7 to noon tomorrow, well, we all got to find a different way home. City's closing off those blocks to through traffic. That's so workers can access City Hall's roof and the flagpoles in order to untangle the flag and restring the Missouri state flag. City recommends using streets either east or west of Main Street during the brief closure. And please, everybody, slow down, take your time, maybe a little congestion, and of course we've got to be watching out for the kids as well when you take those detours. All right, it was an election Tuesday. Questions impacting taxes, city government, school boards. We've got your numbers. We're going to start in Joplin with the use tax proposal. Voters were asked whether online purchases should be subject to the same local sales tax as purchases from local retailers, and it was a close one. But the yeses passed. The use tax is now in effect for that 3 1/8% for out-of-state vendor purchases, barely passing with just about 52% of the vote. Voters in Lamar, a similar decision to make, use tax on the ballot. This one, a little wider of a gap, as 64% of voters approved of it. And in Parsons, Kansas, a sales tax hike, up 0.5% to be continued for another 5-year term. This would go for economic development, streets, parks improvement, and voters overwhelmingly in favor of that with 72%. Frontenac put up a 1/4-cent sales tax proposal on the ballot. This encompasses streets, alleys, sidewalks, and storm damage. And that's about as overwhelming as you're going to get. 98%, almost 98.5%, only 2 no's, approving of Frontenac sales tax. In Cherokee, Kansas, a 1.5% sales tax for what was deemed general government purposes. And like the other sales tax questions, this one passing as well with 73% of your vote. Over to Oronogo, Missouri, on the ballot for voters, the proposal for the city to sell its natural gas utility to Spire, Missouri. And 55 voters said yes. That equates to about 63% of the vote. So that does pass as far as the city of Oronogo selling its natural gas utility to Spire. As we mentioned earlier, many communities around the area also deciding city government and school board races. All those results up on our website, koamnewsnow.com. You can also find results through that thing right there. Hey, that's not a result. Nah, you know what that is. It's a QR code. And it takes you directly to the KOAM News app. So if you have your phone on you, let's keep it up here for a couple seconds so we don't pull the rug out. We'll come back to this and throw it up every now and then, not only throughout the course of the show. Try to keep it going for the rest of the week so we don't surprise anybody. But you pull out your phone, use your camera, scan that QR code right there on your screen, and it will deliver you to the KOAM News Now app. And you can look up those results right there with your coffee while we're going through the rest of our local, national, and international news. And that happens to be a look at our top news stories this half hour. Coming up, a man in Japan dressed as the Joker stabs people on a subway, causing dozens of injuries. Plus, a man going to trial for a murder committed decades ago. We'll have the latest. But first, as we sit at 5:38, a look at our 7-day forecast, where we're just about done with our rainfall for today. We'll hang on for an hour or two and pay attention to what goes on there down in the south and to the west, but the majority of the 4 states remaining dry. Then we wait for the clouds to kind of dissipate, give us a little sunshine. Overnight lows between Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. Oh, we're going to have to bust out the frost advisories and the freeze watches. We'll be back with World Watch next. Topping World Watch, police in Western Australia find the body of a 4-year-old girl who had been missing for more than 2 weeks in a home around 30 miles from where she went missing at a remote campsite. Cleo Smith vanished from her family's tent at Blowholes campsite in McLeod. The Western Australian government had offered a $1 million reward for information leading to Cleo's whereabouts. A police team broke their way into a locked house and found Cleo in one of the rooms. She was later reunited with her parents a short time later. Police have a man in custody currently being questioned by detectives. A man dressed as a Joker went on a stabbing spree at a Japanese train on Halloween. More than a dozen people injured, one in critical condition. Ian Lee with more on the story.
Fear and panic gripped passengers on this Tokyo train on Halloween night. Terrified commuters escaped any way they could, even squeezing through windows, as a man dressed as the Joker went on a rampage. Witnesses say he stabbed an elderly man sitting next to him. Minutes later, an explosion rocked the subway car after the attacker started a fire, triggering more chaos. Police and firefighters quickly locked down the area and arrested the suspect on the spot. This video posted to social media reportedly shows the 24-year-old calmly smoking a cigarette as he waited for police to arrive. Authorities say the attacker told them he admired the infamous comic book villain. Video from the aftermath flooded social media. One witness said the attacker walked slowly, waving a long knife, dripping in blood. The suspect also reportedly told police he wanted to kill someone so he could get the death penalty. Ian Lee, CBS News.
This is the second knife attack in 3 months. In August, a man stabbed 10 people while on another Tokyo commuter train, telling police he wanted to attack women who looked happy. Rescue workers desperately digging through the rubble of a collapsed apartment building in Lagos, Nigeria. So far, at least 14 people are known to be dead. 9 more were pulled from the rubble alive. Officials say they still hear the voices of others who are alive and trapped beneath the wreckage. A Swedish cleaning fad is gaining steam around the world, designed for people getting up in years. Promotes sorting through a lifetime of possessions to save your family from a lifetime of clutter. I enjoy the man so much, I said, Ian Lee, find out more about this cleaning fad.
84-year-old Lena Sundgren and her friend Christina are doing some housework, but it's a type that might raise an eyebrow, known in Sweden as duststädning, or death cleaning.
It gives a kind of calm.
By glow of candlelight, the two sift through Lena's belongings, deciding what's important and what needs to go.
The feeling of getting rid of them is a relief.
That relief is also meant for her family.
I have done my best to relieve my relatives from deciding what to do with all those things.
The tradition gained a cult following from author Margareta Magnusson.
My blouses.
She introduced the concept with her book, The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning.
So when you are this old, it takes you back to moments you like to remember maybe. And if you don't, just throw it away.
It's a twist on Marie Kondo's approach to a tidy home.
Hello, I'm Maria Kondo.
The Japanese celebrity got the world keeping only items that bring them joy.
Just get rid of it.
While we can't live forever,
well, I'm going to die. Well, that's it.
At least with death cleaning, we can make life easier for those left behind. Ian Lee, CBS News.
Oh, Father Time getting a chuckle out of us right now, isn't he? Death cleaning is not meant to be a one-off process. In fact, people are encouraged to take their time with it and share the experience with others. I can't imagine why, if I was to do death cleaning and I'm like, oh my gosh, here's that water bill that I misplaced from 1997. Can't see like my neighbor being like, that's so cool. The city probably charged me interest on that. So look at some of our biggest headlines from around the world as far as our Something to Talk About this morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page. Women in the workplace, a comprehensive study finding women in corporate America made strides at nearly every level of U.S. companies last year. Now, having said that, women of color still face more challenges and yet find themselves with less support. Throw the pandemic on top of it, and in some cases, motherhood and balancing all of that can be daunting to say the least. So it's no surprise that according to one report, women face the likelihood of burnout far more than men. In fact, 1/3 say they've considered leaving or downshifting their careers. That brings us to our morning question as far as workplace equality, and no surprise, we've got 88%. I'm very glad that it's at 88%, and here I am. I just told somebody the other day that I don't root for things on polls. Today changed my mind. What can I say? Turning over a new leaf. You can always take part by going to komnewsnow.com/vote or connect to us via our Facebook page. We'll be back with the news you need to know before you head out the door right after this. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The National Weather Service reporting a record-breaking number of tornadoes in Oklahoma last month. The NWS confirming 31 tornadoes. That's 4 more than the 27 recorded in October of 1998. Luckily, no deaths reported. On average, October, the 5th most active tornado month in the Sooner State, averages about 2.2 twisters since 1950. The strongest one last month in EF2 near Anadarko, that was on October the 10th. That's when strong storms also spawned severe weather in parts of Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, and Texas. A maintenance worker is dead after falling into an asphalt silo in Oklahoma City. Investigators say a young man who regularly worked to clean out the structure at TJ Campbell Construction fell about 25 feet into the silo where temperatures can reach up to 320 degrees. The fire department drained the silo to retrieve his body. Company saying the man's father also works at the plant. A little bit of the election coverage here. City of Joplin asking about an local use tax, and also too this concerns online purchases. And it was a close one. It was for 3 1/8%. It was close, but the yeses do prevail, coming out with just about 51.5% of the vote. In Lamar, Missouri, a similar decision as far as a use tax proposal. This one passed a little bit more overwhelmingly with 64% of the vote. And of course, you can always find all our election results on komnewsnow.com, whether it be any other use tax, property tax, city taxes, and of course, school board and city government results as well. All right, let's transition over to our current conditions over 7th and Rangeline. 41 degrees, feeling about like 38 right now. Holding on to just a little bit of rain. What's left of it is pretty light. And temperatures, this is just about where we were yesterday. Not a big difference. Nice thing is, it's not widespread rain as what it was. And the wind, just 5 to 10 miles per hour. So we'll take that. A little bit of a wind chill, just anywhere from 2 to 3 degree difference. So certainly could be a whole lot worse. And it's going to feel a whole lot colder here tonight and on Thursday night. Could reset it, give you an idea of the cloud cover, as it has not begun to break as of yet. And all the rain as it progresses toward the Mississippi River, nothing behind it. So that's good news for the rest of our week, actually. Weather trend going to lift us up into the low 50s. A little sunshine before we get out of Dodge here tonight. And then overnight, here's where it gets a little interesting, because as the cloud cover begins to break up, that also means very, very cold temperatures. And so what we'll do is actually work from, let's work from west to east here. The lighter purple for southeast Kansas, frost advisory. The darker purple for state line and through southwest Missouri, freeze watch. Turquoise from Springfield to the east coast, freeze warnings. All those lasting until Thursday morning at 9 a.m. That's how expansive they've become right there. 7-day forecast says we're going to do this twice. We're going to do it for tomorrow morning, and then we'll also do it for Friday morning. Then, as we head into the weekend, now we're talking back into the 60s with sunshine. Don't forget to set your clocks back on Sunday. Be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Later.
The fate of a man charged with murdering a Colorado girl nearly 4 decades ago is now in the hands of a jury. Kelly Worthman refused Tuesday's closing arguments.
What does the evidence tell you?
It is now up to 12 people to decide if Steve Pankey kidnapped and killed Janelle Matthews in 1984.
The Matthewses should not have closure at the expense of an innocent man.
In closing arguments, prosecutors said jurors should look at this case using common sense, from Pankey's strange behavior around the time Janelle disappeared to his knowledge of evidence never made public, and how he inserted himself into the investigation for more than 30 years.
This narcissist is saying the state will not be able to solve Janelle Matthews' disappearance without his help.
Yet the defense asked the jury to look at this case through Pankey's eyes.
Mr. Pankey, as we've heard, lives in a world of conspiracy, paranoia, and self-esteem issues.
Pankey admitted he's a liar, a self-proclaimed master manipulator, but told the court he did not kidnap and kill a 12-year-old girl he'd never met.
If you believe he lied when he said that, then you have the right to render a guilty verdict in this matter.
District Attorney Michael Rourke says it's Pankey's lies over the decades and in the courtroom that only add to the proof that he is guilty.
Janelle Matthews was kidnapped, Janelle Matthews was murdered, and the master manipulator did it.
The jury resumes deliberations this morning. We'll be back with one more look at weather right after this. Cool one, as we've got temperatures right now ranging from 37 to 43. Nice thing is the majority of the 4 states remaining dry. We've got a little bit to the west and a little bit clinging to the south. But we'll be done with that here in, say, hour and a half, 2 hours. Accumulation numbers very minute, and a weather trend that will eventually lift us up into the low 50s later on. Still substantially below normal for this time of year, but we'll be dry and actually get a peak of sunshine. And then overnight, had to throw up the Alert Day logo. Frost advisories and freeze watches on the way overnights. We'll be back right after this. Coming up, it is off to the polls in Joplin. Voters considering a use tax, and then across the state line in Crawford County, results considering city sales taxes. Also, a young man in Oklahoma falls to his death in a tragic silo accident. Good Wednesday morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News, where it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michael Hayslip. We're going to get to those stories and, of course, complete election results. And if you are chomping at the bit, trying to find out exactly who won what, you can go to KOAMnewsnow.com. We have your complete election results on our website. Before you do that, you may want to check out what it's going to do outside today, because if you're to the west and to the south, we are still holding on to a couple raindrops and heavy cloud cover as well. Temperatures right now anywhere from, let's say 38 to 43. We lost our 37s that we had earlier, so at least we're moving up on it and not moving down. 41 in Joplin, 43 in Chanute, 42 in Miami. Let's roll 41 in Carthage. Now, that being said, we only topped out at, what did we get to yesterday? 47 is what we got to yesterday. 43 is as high as is where we were pretty much at midnight when we changed the clock. At Joplin Regional Airport, that average high of 64. Be nice to get there. If we can hold off until, say, Sunday, we will eventually be around that 64-degree mark, but we're going to be substantially below that for the next several days. Skywatch storm tracker illustrating the cloud cover right there. That does help us out for late nights, early mornings, though, because that prevents the frost and the freeze from really settling in with that cold Canadian air whipping out of the north on the jet stream. Just kind of cuts short of us by Kansas City and then makes its way down to the boot heel. Weather trend eventually, how about a little sunshine? Not going to be bad for this afternoon. Temperatures low 50s. Rain should be out of here, say, give it the next hour and a half, and it'll be a thing of the past. Then we'll begin to watch those clouds break up a little bit. And just before sunset, we begin to clear off. But what does that do when we get cleared off around sunset? Well, that will mean frost advisories, watches, and warnings. That will be those alert days indicated there on Thursday and Friday, mainly so for our overnight and early morning hours. I've been stressing it. I'll say it one more time. If you do care about the vegetation outside, either bring it in, cover it up, because we are going to experience a frost. I mean, parts of the 4 states have already gotten their first frost. If you have somehow skirted around it, this may be the time to take it seriously. National Weather Service reports a record-breaking number of tornadoes in Oklahoma last month. Weather Service confirmed 31 tornadoes, and that's 4 more than the 27 recorded in October of 1998. Great news is that no deaths were reported. On average, October the 5th most active tornado in the Sooner State, averaging 2.2 twisters since 1950. And the strongest one last month in EF2 near Anadarko on October the 10th. That is also when severe weather spawned in parts of Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, and Texas. A maintenance worker is dead after falling into an asphalt silo in Oklahoma City. Investigators say it was a young man who regularly worked to clean out the structure at TJ Campbell Construction. He fell about 25 feet into the silo, where temperatures can reach up to 320 degrees. Fire department drained the silo to retrieve his body. The company saying the man's father also works at the plant. All right, so if you're in Joplin and thinking about going down Main Street, this is for tomorrow, thinking about going down Main Street from 4th Street to 7th Street and doing so between the hours of 7 to 12. So here we are, Main Street tomorrow from 7 to 4th, in between 7 a.m. and noon. Well, we've got to find a different route. All right, it's all for a great reason. City's got to close off those blocks through traffic. And that's so workers can access City Hall's roof. Got the flagpoles up there. Going to untangle those and restring the Missouri state flags. So the city recommending using streets either east or west of Main Street during this brief closure. Remember, by noon should be back reopened. Also, too, let's all remain cautious and vigilant near those detours because we're going to be on some perhaps unfamiliar routes. And kids are going to be out headed toward the bus stop that early in the morning if you're out and about. All right, let's get to election results. Local ballots yesterday impacting our taxes, city government, school boards. We've got your number, and we'll start with the Joplin Use Tax. This one was a close one. So at issue, voters were asked whether online purchases should be subject to the same local sales tax as purchases from local retailers. And about as close as you're going to see. How about this? Separated by less than 100 votes. Now, ultimately, it is those in favor of the tax that do prevail, drawing 51% of the vote. Over to Lamar, Missouri. They had a use tax proposal as well. This one a little bit more widespread as far as our differential goes, as 64% were in favor of the idea. In Parsons, Kansas, sales tax issue, 0.5% to be continued for another 5 years. This would go for economic development, streets, parks improvement, and 72% in favor of the Parsons sales tax. Over in Frontenac, wide margin here for the sales tax that would be 0.25% to be levied beginning July 1 of next year. And this will be for streets, alleys, and sidewalks, and 98% of those voters in favor of it in Frontenac. In Cherokee, Kansas, how about a 1.5% sales tax for what they deem general government purposes? And this passed with 73% of voters saying yes. Over in Oronogo, voters had the option of whether or not to decide to have the city sell its natural gas utility to Spire and do so for $620,000. We did a couple stories on this leading up to yesterday's vote, and it turns out 63% of Oronogo voters were in favor of the natural gas utility sale. Of course, many communities around the area also had city government and school board races, and once again, we've got all those results on our webpage. All you have to do is go to KOAMnewsnow.com. Then, made it a little easier on you. You can grab your coffee, grab your phone, snap a shot of that right there. Use your camera, you scan that QR code, and that's going to deliver you to the KOAM News Now app. So you could honestly just sit there, enjoy breakfast, watch the KOAM morning news, and scroll through all your election results. And after you've taken that in, remember, you can check that out each and every morning while you're at it. Speaking of while we're at it, jump on over to Future Track here, where we'll be done with our rain here in the next hour and a half or so. Temperatures today, low 50s for the afternoon, slowly clearing out our cloud cover as we get into Wednesday night and Thursday morning. And then we've got to talk about our frost advisories to the west, freeze watches in the central and eastern portions, and then as you push off just east of our counties, but an indicator of how chilly it's going to be, there are freeze warnings that begin in Springfield and stretch all the way to the mid-Atlantic. As a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes, coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Francis Graves from the Kansas State Wildcat Extension District stops by to talk about encouraging teens to cultivate deliberation and facilitation. Well, those are fancy words, but what it means for a teenager is a great opportunity to take advantage of a couple classes and do so for free. Pfizer prepares to roll out 11 million kid-sized doses of its COVID vaccine after CDC approval. And the Department of Justice blocks the acquisition of not one, but two major publishing houses. We're going to find out why. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, Wall Street continues its hot streak. Avis stocks take off in a big way. Amazon Flex drivers receive millions of dollars in settlement money, and maybe some good news for Android users if you enjoy Netflix and video games. That's a lot to take in, but there's no need to worry because we've got Diana King Hall on our side.
Wall Street gained more ground on Tuesday. The Dow rallied 138 points, the Nasdaq rose 53, and the S&P 500 added 16. Shares of rental car company Avis skyrocketed 108% yesterday, thanks in part to a stellar earnings report. Bets against the stock, known as a short squeeze, likely contributed as well, with short sellers forced to buy shares to cover their positions. Avis also hinted it may be adding electric vehicles to its fleet. Amazon Flex drivers are getting their hard-earned tips back. More than 140,000 independent contract drivers will receive $60 million that were illegally withheld by the company between 2016 and 2019. The deal is part of a settlement with the Federal Trade Commission. The average amount is about $420, but one driver will receive $28,000. And starting later today, Android users can play video games in their Netflix account. The streaming giant is rolling out 5 games, including 2 around the show Stranger Things. They will be available to play within the Netflix smartphone and tablet apps. iPhone users will have access to the games in the coming months.
And thank you, Diana King Hall. Supply chain crisis is making it harder to find toys and gifts and make sure they're under the Christmas tree this year. And that's why some experts believe this could be the most expensive Christmas we've seen in decades. Dealing with a shortage of raw and packing materials, people are panic buying evidently. That's making it harder to find anything on store shelves. Average ocean freight rate cost is up thousands of dollars per shipping container. Well, who pays for that in the long run? You guessed it. That drives up prices for consumers. Also, the average time it takes ports to get from the origin point to the destination has increased by more than 20 days. Department of Justice suing to stop publishing company Penguin Random House from acquiring Simon & Schuster. Those are going to be very familiar names to most of you because they happen to be 2 of the 5 biggest publishers in the entire United States. The Department of Justice argues that combining them would give Penguin Random House too much power over content, authorship, and author compensation. The 2 companies call the merger, quote, a pro-consumer, pro-author, and pro-bookseller transaction. Flights are still being canceled, but at a much slower pace as American Airlines recovers from 5 days of travel nightmare. William LaJeunesse, he has the story. He's in Los Angeles.
We got here yesterday to find out our flight was canceled.
It's a familiar story among stranded passengers nationwide. American Airlines canceling thousands of flights over the past 5 days. And in many cases, travelers are still trying to find a new way home. The problems started when high winds took out service at Dallas-Fort Worth, America's main hub, which meant pilots and flight attendants couldn't get to their assignments, prompting massive staffing shortages.
The airlines need to be less aggressive in their scheduling. They're just trying to fly as many places as they can, and then when there are problems, things go really bad fast.
And that could lead to even bigger problems as we head into the busy holiday season, with travel experts saying communication will be key as airlines work to get back to pre-pandemic staffing levels.
Opt into all notifications from your airline so that you are one of the first to know there's a problem.
American has canceled more than 2,000 flights since Friday, impacting more than 136,000 travelers so far. The pace of cancellations is slowing, but the airline still scrapped more than 3% of its flights on Tuesday, and experts say there will not be a quick fix.
Take that deep breath and have a little bit of patience because this is such a complex system. This isn't a simple problem. And that means it doesn't have a simple one-off solution.
American says about 1,800 flight attendants that had been furloughed during the pandemic are returning to work this week. In Los Angeles, William LaJeunesse, Fox News.
Coming up next on the KOAM Morning News, if you're a parent or grandparent of anybody in between the ages of 13 to 18, we've got a wonderful opportunity that we're going to tell you about, and it's all free. And if you have somebody in that age group who's specifically thinking or needs to think about college applications, this is one you're not going to want to miss. Be right back after this. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on this Wildcat Wednesday, and there's a great unique opportunity coming up here middle of the month, and we're going to hammer home a few points here. That number one, it is absolutely free. Number two, it's open to anybody 13 to 18 years old. And number three, what great skills they're going to walk away from this course that is being opened up by our good friends at the Wildcat Extension District, joined by Frances Graves this morning. Frances is the Director and Community Vitality Agent. Frances, number one, thank you so much for your time. Two of the skills that kids are going to walk away with from this are deliberation and facilitation. And it's easy for you and me and the audience to talk about that. But when kids 13 to 18 maybe hear, fancy names like that, how do you describe what they're going to be able to take away from this class?
So I would describe deliberation as being different than debate. We're kind of all used to the idea of debate, which is trying to prove your point and get someone to change their heart or their mind to agree with you or to win. But deliberation is more of a careful conversation technique of expressing all of the different sides of an issue and allowing everyone through facilitation to kind of create that safe space for everyone to feel like their opinions can be viewed, that people are practicing listening as well as talking and active listening and asking questions related to follow-up. Even if it's something that makes someone feel uncomfortable, a facilitator learns how to progress the conversation into that deliberation versus that debate, that ability to learn from something and to learn about someone versus trying to just win your opinion over theirs.
And these courses are coming up on Tuesday, the 14th, and Thursday, the 16th, and it's in the evening, it's online, it's absolutely free. What do you hope as the host of this meeting that our kids are able to walk away with and transport into their adult lives?
Sure, it's actually the 16th and the 18th.
My
Tuesday
bad.
and Thursday. No worries, it's the week right before Thanksgiving, so I'm really hoping that we'll get some teenagers on who want to make change. That's the time of their lives that they can see what's going on and they want to have a positive impact as they get older and enter the world as adults. And I want them to be able to approach the holidays with some tools to be able to take some contentious issues and some really complicated issues that people are facing in all of our lives right now, and to have skills to maybe move the conversation away from debate into that deliberation where maybe we can find more of a common ground and understand each other a little bit better.
Maybe able to pass that on along the Thanksgiving table there around the rest of the family members as well. When we talk about that age group, 13 to 18, and of course, as you move toward 18, we're talking about filling out college applications. Colleges are looking at what skill set you have that transitions to their curriculum as well. And I understand that anybody that goes through this training on the 16th and 18th, you're actually going to walk away with a certain certificate.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think that's an awesome benefit of this training. And it's a virtual training, so anyone can attend 5:30 to 7:30 after practice is over. And they will leave by the second night. They'll leave with a certification as an Institute for Civic Discourse and Democracy trained facilitator. So you can list that on your college applications, your resume, and I think that's going to show that you value this type of deliberate conversation, this ability to try to have people reduce conflict and have them be more productive and effective in their communication, which is a great skill to have. Okay, so Frances, now that the moms and dads out there, now that we know what's going on, kind of give us the lowdown. And please reiterate, oftentimes we talk so much about 4-H, and rightfully so, on the Wildcat Wednesday, but this is not 4-H specific. So give me the particulars, and how do I sign up? Correct. So the 4-H program actually gives education to kids across the district. And whether or not you are a member of the club, it is a youth development program for all youth. And this is going to be Tuesday and Thursday on the evening hours from 5:30 to 7:30, both evenings, the week before Thanksgiving. It's an interactive virtual conversation. We can have a maximum of 50 participants They'll be broken into breakout rooms and practice the skills as they learn them. And there's no cost, and they can register on our website, wildcatdistrict.ksu.edu. Check out our social media pages for that registration link as well, or they can call me directly at 785-331-5378.
And I want to reiterate what Francis said. It is open to anybody 13 to 18, and thanks to the Kansas State Wildcat Extension District, absolutely free. Francis, can't thank you enough. Number one, for your time. Number two, what you do for our communities. Number three, what you're doing for the future of our kids.
Thank you very much.
Francis Graves, she is the Director, Community Vitality Agent with the Wildcat District from the Kansas State Research and Extension Office. Francis, thank you so much. Have a great morning. And once again, all that information also on KOAMnewsnow.com. And we'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this. Suicide rates decreased in the United States last year. However, there were some increases for certain demographics. According to data published by a CDC agency, suicides decreased by 3% from 2019 to 2020. And that's despite risk factors for suicide generally increasing during the pandemic. Suicides among men went down 2%. For women, it dropped 8%. And the largest drop, 10%, among non-Hispanic white women. However, suicide rates increased for non-Hispanic Black, non-Hispanic American Indian and Alaska Native, and Hispanic men. The overall decline follows a 2% decline from 2018 to 2019, but the report's author says there still needs to remain a vigilance about suicide prevention. 2020 saw just under 46,000 suicides, and she said historically that's still a very high number. Now, while that number is lower than 2017, 18, and 19, it's still higher than any number previously before that. Pfizer is gearing up to distribute 11 million doses of the Pediatric COVID-19 vaccine. CDC director endorsing the recommendation for children ages 5 through 11 to get the vaccine. This comes after it was approved for emergency authorization by the FDA. Pfizer saying within the first 10 days it expects to make 19,000 shipments to all 50 states. Its clinical trial showed the vaccine provides 90.7% protection against symptomatic diseases in this age group, and the youngest age group will receive 1/3 the dose of what people 12 years and older receive. Company hopes the smaller dose will reduce any potential side effects. FDA says the benefits of the vaccine outweigh the risk to children, and now nearly 28 million children are encouraged by the CDC to get vaccinated. One international study details the risks of breast cancer moving to other parts of the body. There's also new research out of Scotland that looks at individuals with type 2 diabetes, and another new study issuing a warning to alcohol abstainers. Here's Elise Preston with today's top medical stories.
The risk of early breast cancer spreading to other parts of the body ranges from 6 to 22%. That's according to a large international study that also found women diagnosed at a younger age, those with large tumors, and those with luminal B cancer were at higher risk than others. New research in Scotland finds 1 in 20 people with type 2 diabetes achieve remission. The study looked at individuals over 30 who had not taken glucose-lowering medication, had lost weight, had lower blood sugar levels, or had bariatric surgery. Studies that show people who drink moderately live longer than those who don't drink at all are flawed, according to German researchers. Their new study finds alcohol abstainers often die early for other reasons, including previous alcohol or drug problems, daily smoking, and overall poor health. Alcohol abstainers without those risk factors had the same death rates as moderate drinkers. The people who fared the best? Those who avoided alcohol their entire lives. Those are some of today's top health stories. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
Hey, just real quick, since we're in the Healthwatch segment here, shout out to Frontenac High School National Honor Society, their advisor, Cassie Rooms, and all those wonderful students of NHS putting on one of the largest blood drives that the school had ever seen. Special thanks, too, for the American Red Cross for their wonderful work. And also, too, special thanks to the students who were just amazing and participated in a number of walk-in appointments. They didn't even plan on giving blood when they showed up that day, but they realized the importance of it and they took part. So once again, great job by Frontenac National Honor Society and Cassie Rooms putting that on for the entire community. That is a look at some of today's top health stories. Let's transition over to 7th and Rangeline, where right now we got a chilly one on our hands, 41 degrees. We've actually lost the wind chill though, feeling like 41. That's all the rain that we got left. We are just about done with it, and our accumulation numbers maxed out at about 1/4 of an inch, so the majority of the 4 states even stayed dry. Temperatures ranging anywhere from, say about 37 to 42 right now. Remember, overnight into Thursday morning, we've got frost advisories and freeze watches. Same thing for Thursday into Friday. We'll break that down right after this. Coming up in Election Tuesday, Joplin voters to the polls with a use tax issue on the ballot. Across the state line into Crawford County, Kansas, we'll have results of those elections as well. And a young man in Oklahoma falls to his death in a tragic silo accident.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good Wednesday morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. We're at 6:30. I'm Michael Hayslip. We're going to get to those stories and your election results here in just a second. But first, I want to start with our current conditions over 7th and Rangeline. And while we'll have a pretty quiet and cool Wednesday on our hands, we do have some stuff to talk about weather-wise as we get ready to push into tonight and Thursday morning. Just barely clinging to a little bit of green on the Skywatch storm tracker as far as some light early morning Wednesday rain. Certainly not widespread in the majority of the 4 states. Done with it, and what's going to shape up to be a dry end of our work week as we head into a nice weekend. 37 is as low as we've got right now in Nevada and Monette. 43 is as high as we've got, and that's in Chanute and in Welch. Let's go 41 in Pittsburgh and 42 in Miami. Boy, it'd be nice if we could get up to our average high for early November. That'd be 64, but we're going to be a far cry from that for really next couple of days. Little break in the cloud cover in western southeast Kansas, but for everybody else, kind of an overcast start. Could be worse though. Look at that jet stream coming off of Canada up there through the Dakotas and Minnesota. And that thing just stops short of us, kind of clips through Kansas City and then heads down toward the boot heel. And so that's why you get up there anywhere way below the freezing mark if you get in the middle of that cold Canadian air. Our afternoon planner, we're actually going to get some gradually clearing skies and make it up around 51 degrees. Now let's talk about overnight because that's when the patchy frost will arrive with freeze watches and warnings. Breaking up for the afternoon, but of course once you lose the cloud cover, well, that allows this to settle in. On the left-hand side, that light purple, those are frost advisories. And then the dark purple, that's what's indicated by our watch box right there. The darker purple, that is a freeze watch. Technically, it goes into effect at tomorrow morning at 3 a.m., but want everybody to be ready for it tonight before you head off to bed. Protect that vegetation if you want to get it through next couple of days. 7-day forecast, gradually warming up though. By the time we get to Friday, mid-50s, and then we talked about that seasonable high of 64. We're going to be right there for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and maybe even throw up a 70 there by the time we get to Tuesday. Don't forget, set those clocks back. Daylight savings time ending by the time we get into Sunday morning. A National Weather Service reports a record-breaking number of tornadoes in Oklahoma last month. The NWS confirming 31 tornadoes, and that's 4 more than the 27 recorded in October of 1998. This year, no deaths were reported. On average, October the 5th most active tornado month in the Sooner State. Averages about 2.2 twisters and has done so since 1950. Strongest tornado last month, that was an EF2 near Anadarko on October the 10th. You may remember that's when strong storms spawned severe weather in Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, and Texas. A maintenance worker is dead after falling into an asphalt silo in Oklahoma City. Investigators say a young man who regularly worked to clean out the structure at T.J. Campbell Construction fell about 25 feet into the silo. Temperatures in the silo can reach up to 320 degrees. The fire department drained the silo to retrieve the young man's body, the company saying the man's father also works at the plant. All right, so if you're going to be in Joplin tomorrow and you're thinking about going down Main Street from 4th Street to 7th Street, that's where we're at. Main Street, 4th to 7, tomorrow morning between 7 a.m. and 12. Well, we got to find a different route, but all for a good reason. City closing off those blocks to through traffic, and that's so workers can access City Hall's roof and their flagpoles. Got to untangle the flag, restring the Missouri state flag up. So once again, in between 7 and noon, Main Street, 4th Street to 7th Street, we got to use streets either east or west of it during that closure. Also, too, remain vigilant when you're out and about on those detour routes in the morning hours, because we're going to have kids trying to get to bus stops as well. All right, let's turn our attention to an election Tuesday. We have questions impacting taxes, city governments, school boards. Here's your numbers. We're going to start with an extremely close one. This is for the city of Joplin in a use rate tax of 3 1/8%. This really affected online sales and whether online sales should be taxed at the same rate as local sales. And it was close, but the yeses decided it with 51% of the vote. So once again, that measure does pass in Joplin. In Lamar, a use tax proposal. This one, pretty much the same thing as what Joplin was asking. This one overwhelmingly passed, up to 64% saying yes. Over in Parsons, Kansas, we'll start with our sales taxes. Half-cent proposal to fund economic development, streets and parks, and almost 72% in favor of that in Parsons. Frontenac with a 1/4-cent sales tax proposal. This one for alleys, sidewalks, streets, and storm damage. And overwhelmingly, more than 98% in favor of that sales tax in Frontenac. Cherokee, Kansas, 1.5% sales tax, what's called general government purposes. And this one also not close, as 73% were in favor of that. Oronogo, Missouri. We had a couple stories on this leading up to the proposed question of whether the city should sell its natural gas utility to Spire for $620,000. And that transaction looks like it's a go, according to voters, as 63% are in favor of the sale. Of course, in a number of communities, voters also deciding city government, school board races, and you can find those results on our website. Or if you got your phone on you, all you got to do is open up your camera. We'll keep that up here for just a little bit. And we'll try to run it throughout the course of the week. If you're interested in just accessing the app instantly, that's what's going to be able to do it for you. It's just going to take you right there. And so once again, if you're interested in reading more election results this morning, or each and every morning, if you're grabbing your coffee, you're on the go, you're getting ready for work, you're getting the kids ready for work, or school. I mean, if you're getting them ready for work, I don't know, we might have to talk about child labor laws, but that's a different conversation. If you're getting them ready for school, you can always just check the app and see what's going on in your community each and every morning. That is a look at this morning's top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News, more Election Day coverage.
Election Day results are still coming in, but already it's looking like the GOP is the big winner. I'm Laura Podesta with details on races from around the country.
Plus, our Something to Talk About in our morning Insta poll, gender equality in the workplace. We'll be back right after this. Topping Nation Watch this morning, the Commonwealth of Virginia will have a Republican governor for the first time since 2014. And in New Jersey, a Republican is putting up a strong fight against a Democratic incumbent. That race, as of this morning, still up in the air. Laura Podesta breaks down the numbers in a number of our country's races.
Glenn Youngkin will be Virginia's next governor.
Together, we will change the trajectory of this Commonwealth.
CBS News projects the Republican businessman beat former Democratic Governor Terry McAuliffe in a state President Biden won easily in 2020. The economy and jobs was the most important issue for voters, according to a CBS News exit poll.
A new day for Virginians where, yes, we soar and we never settle.
McAuliffe's campaign tried tying Youngkin to former President Trump. Now his loss may be a sign that the Democratic Party needs a new strategy in future races.
And we are going to continue that fight tonight and every day going forward.
Moving up I-95 to New Jersey, the race between Democratic Governor Phil Murphy and Republican Jack Ciattarelli is too close to call.
We want every legal vote counted.
When every vote is counted and every vote will be counted, we hope to have a celebration.
Here in New York City, Democrat and former police officer Eric Adams will be the next mayor of the nation's biggest city.
Today, we take off the intramural jersey and we put on one jersey, Team New York.
Up to Boston, Michelle Wu will be the city's first woman and first person of color to be mayor.
We are ready to become a Boston for everyone.
And in Minneapolis, voters rejected an amendment to replace the city's police department with a new agency following George Floyd's murder. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
In Buffalo, New York, four-term incumbent Mayor Byron Brown ran a write-in campaign after losing the Democratic primary to Democratic Socialist India Walton. Brown appeared to declare victory, though Walton did not concede and is waiting for the write-ins and absentee ballots to be counted. Now, if Walton was to win, she'd be the first Democratic Socialist to lead a major American city in decades. That is a look at today's top national stories. We'll be back with our four-state hero, birthdays and anniversaries right after this. We take this time to honor this morning's four-state hero. Army veteran Sergeant Laverne Snyders, a member of the U.S. Army Arkansas National Guard. Snyders fought in World War II and Korea. He received the Korean War Medal and Good Conduct Medal, and we salute you, Sergeant Laverne Snyders, this morning's four-state hero. Let's begin our birthday with Luke Walsh, backpack, ready to rock and roll. Off to, I'm gonna guess, a little preschool action going on as he celebrates the big number 3 in Girard. Happy birthday, Luke. In Fort Scott, Brinley Marsh, wonderful Halloween costume. And that may not be a Halloween costume. That may be Brinley, maybe what she rocks every day. But it's absolutely gorgeous, Brinley. I love that color of purple. And she is celebrating in Fort Scott. The Dooling twins. We'll start with Morgan. Morgan, a very happy birthday to you in Columbus. And Morgan celebrates with her sister Madison. So a happy birthday to you, Morgan and Madison. Have a wonderful day. The big 3-0, Jessica Zwala. Pretty cool picture right there, Jessica. I'll give you one of those outstanding in her fields comments. Jessica, I want you to have a great 30th. And we've got 50th in front now. That is for Mr. Greg Lovell. Greg, a very happy birthday to you in the knack. Got a couple of 67s. And these are both from yesterday, but I figured they'll keep the celebration going. And one of those is Debbie Kidu. That's a marvelous picture right there. Debbie, a happy birthday. Once again, she's in Chanute. And also in Chanute, Cindy King. So Cindy and Debbie, actually born on the same day right there. And Cindy, that's a marvelous picture as well right there. Great smiles all around. So very happy birthday, Miss Cindy. Joe Goebel, celebrating the big number 67 in Arma. Joe, long time no see, and a happy birthday, my man. Winona Godeke, she is celebrating her 90th birthday. Miss Godeke, a very, very happy birthday to you. And she is in McCune. Leroy Barrett, he's got a birthday in Columbus. Mr. Barrett, I want you to have a marvelous, marvelous birthday. And an anniversary, 20 years. Congratulations to the Rushes, Roger and Brandy. Gorgeous picture right there. I'd love to know where you guys were at when that picture was taken. Hopefully a little vacay getaway. And I hope you get to enjoy some time together here this week and into the weekend as the Rushes celebrate in Jasper. And that dude, yup, it's been a long year. I'll tell you that much. It's been a year. Yeah, it's been a year. How about that? All right, Joe Goebel, happy birthday in Arma. Britt Commons, he's celebrating a birthday in Cherokee. Britt, a very happy birthday to you. Mr. Lloyd Hellwig, another long time no see right there. Mr. Hellwig, happy birthday as he turns 83 in Columbus. And Catherine McDaniel, she celebrates her 79th birthday. Happy birthday to Catherine in Franklin. And in Farlington, Travis Shank, a big number 27. Travis, have a great day, my man. A happy birthday and happy anniversary to all on this November the 3rd. Here's where you can send them into. Birthdays at KOAMTV.com, or if you'd like to go online, simply go to KOAMNewsNow.com. And also, too, while you're on our website, that's the best way to be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club. Special deals from local businesses. Once again, it's as easy as going to KOAMNewsNow.com and signing up for the Birthday Club today. Let's run through the Skywatch storm tracker and some temperatures really fast. There we are. We're just about done with the rain. Got a little bit clinging to our highlighted counties, but Nothing to speak of, and I think we're done with our umbrella weather, so that'll be welcome relief. And we're even going to have some gradually clearing skies as we work toward the noon hour. Cool one though, temperatures only in the low 50s. Give you an idea of how the clouds begin to duck off from north to south. It kind of breaks up right there. Hopefully we can sneak out some sunshine down to the south for everybody as well. All right, let's concentrate on this. Thursday morning, those temperatures going down right there. Notice how it's colder out to the east. It's still cold out to the west, don't get me wrong, but that is exactly why we've got these in effect. Now those freeze watches, that's for the deeper purple along the state lines and into southwest Missouri, northeast Oklahoma. Now that's a freeze watch, so it's time to either bring the plants in or cover them up, do something with them. The lighter purple throughout southeast Kansas, remember we talked about temperatures a little bit warmer out there overnight? Well, that's a frost advisory. And then to the east of all our counties, that means it's going to happen out there. They're going to duck down. They're going to have 32s abound out as you stretch toward the Mississippi River. So that's why we throw up the alert days. And then after that, look at that weekend. 63 and 68, mostly sunny skies Saturday and Sunday. Yes, Mother Nature, thank you, ma'am. We'll be back, wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News right after this. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The National Weather Service reporting a record-breaking number of tornadoes in Oklahoma last month, as the Weather Service confirming 31 tornado touchdowns. That happens to be 4 more than the 27 recorded from the previous record month of October of 1998. Luckily, there were no deaths. On average, October, the 5th most active tornado month in the Sooner State, about 2.2 twisters during the month of October, and that dates back to 1950. Strongest tornado last month in EF2 near Anadarko on October the 10th. That's when strong storms also spawned severe weather in parts of Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, and Texas. A maintenance worker is dead after falling into an asphalt silo in Oklahoma City. Investigators say it was a young man who regularly worked to clean out the structure at TJ Campbell Construction, and he fell about 25 feet into the silo where temperatures can reach up to 320 degrees. The fire department drained the silo to retrieve the body. The company says the man's father also works at the plant. Run through some election results. This was one of our closest ones right here. In the city of Joplin, a local use tax rate of 3 1/8%. And the key question here was all about online sales and whether online sales should be taxed the same as if you were to walk into a brick and mortar locally. And just more than 51% of the respondents said yes. That is enough for the Joplin Use Tax to pass. In Lamar, Missouri, a little bit bigger gap there as far as the yeses and the nos, as 64% are in favor with a similar question as to what Joplin proposed. And of course, KOAMNewsNow.com is where you can find complete election coverage results. That is a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. One final look at our temperatures, ranging between 37 and 43, so everybody's going to want a jacket when you take off outside. Gradually clearing skies, a little afternoon and evening sunshine before she finally sets on us. And now that we're done with the rain, we're going to turn our attention from precipitation to cold weather, because overnight, freeze watch is indicated in the dark purple, and then as you work out towards southeast Kansas and the western edge, those are frost advisories. Those stretch all the way to the panhandles. And those freeze warnings, well, they don't affect our highlighted counties. They're to the east of us. But those freeze warnings stretch from Springfield to the Atlantic coast. Coming up today at noon, Howard's making the All-American Kitchen Sink. I'm not even sure what that is. We'll have to tune in and find out. Flip on over to us at Fox 14. We'll continue to have more great morning news for you. I want you to do me a favor today. Enjoy some of that sunshine. Be safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
Today's Pledge of Allegiance is brought to you by